Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into a fascinating battle that's happening right now in design studios, in museums, even in corporate boardrooms. It's the fight to keep our culture authentic in a world where technology is trying to copy it and commerce is trying to sell it. And really, it all comes down to this one big question, right? Are all these incredible new digital tools actually preserving our heritage for the future? Or are they accidentally sanding off all the unique, important edges, leaving us with a kind of generic, flattened version of who we really are? Let's get into it. All right, so let's start with the big one, AI, artificial intelligence. We hear all the time about how creative it can be, but how does it really stack up when you ask it to handle the super delicate, super specific details of our cultural history? Well, some researchers decided to find out. A study from Oxford Academic basically put today's top AI models, the Geminis and ChatGPTs of the world, to the test. They asked them to recreate historical fashion, and the results? Well, they were pretty eye-opening. So here's what they found, and it's a really interesting split. On the one hand, the AI was great at what they call perceptual similarity. Basically, to a computer, the images looked right. The shapes were there, the colors were right. But, and this is a huge but, when actual human experts looked at them, they saw a massive failure in cultural fidelity. The meaning, the story, the soul of the object, it was just gone. And look, this isn't just some tiny little error. It points to a much, much bigger danger. It's a phenomenon that some people are now calling cultural flattening. And it's what happens when all those important details get completely lost in the data. So what is cultural flattening? Well, think of it like this. It's the risk of taking something with a rich, complicated history and spitting out a shallow, generic copy. The AI smooths over all the beautiful, intricate details that actually make a culture unique in the first place. And you can see exactly where the AI tripped up. It just couldn't understand the deep symbolism of the motifs on a Qing dynasty robe. It completely struggled with the unique handmade textures of Indonesian batik. The study found these AIs were especially bad with non-Western clothing, where that cultural context is just everything. The training data just didn't go deep enough. Okay, so if technology can sometimes be a threat to authenticity, how do we fight back? How do you protect real, genuine, original ideas? For that answer, let's pivot away from the digital world and look inside one of the most successful creative powerhouses on Earth, Pixar. This quote from Pixar co-founder Ed Catmull really gets to the heart of how they operate. They believe that true, game-changing originality can't possibly grow in an environment where everyone is afraid. You have to create psychological safety. You have to make it safe for people to take huge risks and maybe even fail. And to do that, they have this amazing concept they call ugly babies. It's this recognition that every single one of their great ideas, every hit movie from Toy Story all the way to Inside Out, started out as this fragile, incomplete, and let's be honest, kind of ugly first draft. These ideas are delicate. They need to be nurtured, not shot down right away. So how do they protect these ugly babies? Their secret weapon is a special kind of meeting, a ritual almost, that they call the Brain Trust. It's basically a group of their top directors and creative minds who get together to give super honest, but always supportive, feedback on a movie that's still being developed. And the feedback isn't just a free-for-all. It's really structured around these four simple but incredibly powerful questions. Notice how they're all about solving the problem, not attacking the person. And here's the most important part. The Brain Trust has zero authority. The director can listen to all the notes and then choose to ignore every single one of them. The goal is to help, not to command. All right, let's shift gears again. We've been inside a private studio. But what happens when culture is out in the public square? In our most trusted places, like museums. Here, the fight for authenticity isn't just about creativity. It's about ethics, and it's about money. So to navigate these really tricky situations, the entire global museum community turns to one key document, the ICOM Code of Ethics. You can think of it as the official rulebook that sets the minimum professional standards for museums everywhere. And right at the very heart of that code is the strict definition of a conflict of interest. It's basically any situation where a personal interest, could be money, could be a career move, anything, gets in the way of making a clear, objective decision that's best for the museum and for the public. And the code gives a totally uncompromising solution. When there's a clash between a curator's personal project or a sponsor's demands, and the museum's core mission, there's no gray area. The interests of the museum and the public it serves have to win every single time. Okay, for our final deep dive, let's go to a place where all of these forces, heritage, creativity, and commerce, all collide in a really high-stakes environment, a luxury fashion house. And we're going to look at Valentino. So first, just look at the numbers, because they tell the whole story. Valentino's revenue was slipping a bit from 2022 to 2024. Okay, but the real story? That's the operating revenue line. That's a measure of how profitable they are. It didn't just decline, it completely fell off a cliff. It dropped by a staggering 87% in 2024. That is an insane amount of financial pressure. And when you're feeling that kind of heat, you're forced to make big moves. Those numbers are the reason for everything that came next, a series of really dramatic changes to try and turn the ship around. And what a year of transformation it was. In March 2024, they made a huge creative gamble, hiring Alessandro Michele, the guy who made Gucci a phenomenon, as their new creative director. At the exact same time, they went on this aggressive global expansion, opening huge new stores from Riyadh to Dubai. It's all leading up to Michele's first collection, which is one of the most anticipated fashion moments in years. And this isn't happening in a bubble. The luxury giant Kering, the company that owns Gucci and Balenciaga, now has a 30% stake in Valentino. So the pressure on Alessandro Michele isn't just artistic. It is a massive, high-stakes financial bet that his unique creative vision can deliver the kind of sales the business so desperately needs. So, after visiting AI labs, animation studios, museums, and fashion houses, what does all of this tell us? What is culture actually worth today? We've really seen 4 different sides of the exact same battle. On one side, you have technology like AI, which can make culture accessible to everyone, but it also risks erasing the very details that make it special. Then you have places like Pixar, which show us that true original creativity has to have a safe space to grow. Our public institutions, like museums, remind us that there has to be a clear ethical line, where the public mission comes before private profit. And finally, you have commerce, which is this powerful engine that just forces everyone, even the most famous brands, to constantly reinvent themselves to survive. And all of that brings us to one final question, and this one is for all of us. In this crazy, complicated landscape, are we just passive consumers? Are we just scrolling through the culture that algorithms and marketing teams serve up for us? Or do we have a more active role to play? Are we curators who demand authenticity, who protect new ideas, and who ultimately decide what's truly worth preserving? The choice really is ours.